conspiracy theories.
The government did it.
It's alien probes. I don't know. We're going to get to it, and we're going to deal with this from the perspective of a thoughtful Christian. Conspiracy theories. I don't think any of you are going to argue with me with the fact that conspiracies are quite rampant right now. With things like this, and by things like this, obviously I don't mean I've experienced or any of my viewers have even experienced things like this before, but with anything where there is major controversy and government involvement and lots of people are sick or dying or something, there will always be those folks on the fringe that for some reason seem to get more volume or more attention on social media and the media, so on and so forth, for whatever reason. It seems like these people that think that everything is a conspiracy in relation to what I just described just get heard more. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because the voice of us normal folks, if you could call me normal, I'm not really sure you could do that, but for the sake of argument, us normal folks for some reason seem to be, maybe it's just muted or we're just used to it. Point number one. Does the theory that is being put forth hold together logically? What do I mean by that? Well, let's say, for instance, that you buy into one of the ideas that I've heard so far, which is the government has released this to control the population and not so much to control the amount of people, but to control the populace. That if we can get you on your backs, well, then we can exploit you. We can become a socialist government or something goofy like that. Well, begin by questioning its logical consistency and its coherence. You could ask a question like this. If the government is knocking us all down, and the government relies on us working to get tax money so they can operate and eat themselves, does it make sense that the government would knock us all down and literally cut the branch off they're sitting on? Because if it wouldn't be for the working people and our tax paying, there'd be no resources for government to do anything. And let's be honest, I don't know one politician that volunteers his time. Point number two. Does the theory that is being put forth comport with the facts? Now, much like number one, facts are a good way to, if you will, compare and contrast. As it's been said, contrast is the mother of all clarity. So if we have facts to compare with what somebody is saying, well, then we can begin to unravel things. We can begin to make our way towards the truth of the matter, rather than to hang out here with these silly ideas. I'm calling them silly ideas, and to be charitable, there are people who really believe these things and think this way. So I guess one of the big aspects, if you followed me or know me at all, I'm a big proponent of engaging people at their level, in a sense that you're not being pious or you're not being condescending to them, but you genuinely care about them as a person as a starting point for conversation. So what are the facts? What's an example of something that we could look at? Perfect example. Guy who rarely ever talks to me on social media sends me a special video through Messenger, and it's about the ibuprofen theory, that all the people that have died from the coronavirus, from COVID-19, has everything to do with the fact that they had ibuprofen in their bloodstream. Now, scientifically, it is possible, but we don't really deal so much with possibilities on our channel, but in probability. Because in order for something to be shown to be false in a probability theory, you have to show what would be more probable, not just possibility. So, for instance, as soon as I saw it, my first reaction was, oh my gosh! No, just kidding. Because we don't eat ibuprofen in this house, but it's literally the only drug that I take other than my sleeping potion to get to bed because my brain's constantly going. And that doesn't mean you're smart, at least in my set. It just means my brain's constantly going and thinking. So nevertheless, I go to the internet, okay? And I'm looking for reputable sites, sites that are hopefully scientific based. Now, if the ibuprofen thing is as bad as they say it is in the video that was sent to me, I should see all kinds of scientific evidence, right? I should see scientists, I should see our Surgeon General, I should see the CDC, because they have told us to distance ourselves from people. They've given us exactly what kind of solutions to clean and disinfect with and how they work, the degrees at which they work. I mean, it's pretty detailed, right? So I would imagine they're not going to leave a detail like ibuprofen out, unless you believe the ibuprofen companies have paid off the government, which is, well, anyways. So I go to the internet, right? I'm on the internet and I cannot find anything that substantiates this person's video. The facts they're throwing at me in this video. Everything is theory laden. And when I'm talking about theory laden, I don't mean like, well, it's a theory that has been tested and been shown to be true, but it's still theory because, well, it's still being tested. We don't know everything about it. That's not what I mean. I'm talking about there isn't any scientific evidence available to say that this is even remotely close to being true. So, number two is to look at the facts. Is what somebody telling us, does it line up with those facts? I want to help you with each one of these points and how to engage somebody. So somebody walks up to you and they let's say they spew the same stuff. They say, hey, did you hear you need to lay off the ibuprofen because if you get the COVID-19, you're likely to die because it goes after this XYZ chromosome or whatever the scientific data actually states. And I apologize, I'm not a scientist, so I'm not going to go in there and try to even bother memorizing that type of stuff for a conspiracy theory. But I don't have to have all the knowledge and the details to ask good questions, right? All I simply have to ask is, what evidence do you have? Now somebody might say, well, this video is talking about a guy who talked to a doctor. So I could do a whole video right here where I say I talked to a doctor and he says no. You see how that goes, just kind of around and round and round? I'm asking for the scientific literature. If you cannot show me data, point to somewhere where a doctor is on the screen and he's saying, listen, this is the facts, and we know he's a doctor, he's a reputable doctor, and then it's confirmed with other doctors, well, I'm not going to buy it. So that's a good way to begin the conversation if somebody comes at you with that. Number three, is the theory overburdened with unwarranted presuppositions? I'm simply asking, there's a difference between you knowing something and you presuming something, right? So we always want to look at what is assumed, what is brought into this thing that you just really can't know, right? So as an example, big government conspiracy theories, right? Do you realize if this was a conspiracy theory in any level or in any type as far as how it's being done through the government or governments, how many people that are in play, the chain of custody of this event, if you will, it have to be massive, right? So you're talking about possibly at least hundreds of people. Okay, I'll be very conservative and just say hundreds of people, but most likely thousands of people involved to carry out something this large at this epic of a scale, right? How likely is it that one of those 100 people, hundreds of people will not keep it secret. You ask any detective, the number one thing they do when they catch more than one suspect, keep them separate. Why? Because when you put them together, if they're thinking people, they're going to have time to get their story straight, right? Because if you keep them separate, it's a way that you can work the one against the other. Because generally, you're going to get different testimonies from this person and that person. And it's very easy to turn this one against that one when they're not together. Why? Because we're all inherently selfish. We don't want to go to jail for somebody else. We don't want to get punished for something else. And somewhere down the line, somebody, if this is a real theory, as far as the coronavirus goes, is going to have a moral backbone, and they're going to break down and they're going to blow the whistle. Yet here we are with hundreds of thousands of people's lives at stake, well, millions and millions of people's lives at stake, but thousands and thousands and thousands of people dying, and nobody's spoken up. So if somebody says something like that, you simply ask them where they got their information from and begin the process of breaking this down logically and move through it in such a way, not to bash somebody, but you want to refute bad ideas. Why? Because our goal, at least on this channel, is to seek truth. That's the goal of the Christian. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Now, that doesn't mean Jesus is inherently in all truth. In context, he's the true Messiah. He's the truth maker, if you will, because all things were created through him, and by him there wasn't anything that was made that was not made. So Jesus is a proponent of truth, and so ought we. And if people are thinking incorrectly, it is, I think, our responsibility as citizens of the world, let alone as Christians, to help people get through that. Because if people think crazy about the coronavirus, how crazy do you think that they think about religion? Or as a Christian, and I've heard a lot of Christians go on about this, that got some really goofy, crazy things that they're saying. And if we would just allow them to go that way, one, it shames the name of Christ. And two, it skews the gospel message. People can't understand the gospel and the truth of it because it's skewed with all kinds of silly ideas and conspiracy theories. And when you're coming from that type of background and thinking, it's going to translate, it's going to permeate into other places that you think and speak about. I'm going to give you a fourth and a fifth one. 4, I'm going to be really quick about. And there really is just this idea of how does the theory handle counter evidence? Just as an example for this, coming from Kenneth Samples, who is a philosopher and a theologian, what he says about this, he simply asks the question is, let's take the moon landing and the hoax that is supposed to be as an example. What does the physical evidence and the testimony say about or against the idea that it's a hoax? Because if we're to dismiss the testimony and the physical evidence, then why should we believe that it's a hoax when they don't have an eyewitness testimony and they definitely don't seem to have any way to have physical evidence? Here we are, number 5. Is the theory falsifiable? This is really, really important because even Christianity, if it is to be argued to be true, should be considered falsifiable. Now, for you that don't quite understand that, give me an opportunity because I can hear you all now in the comments typing away. You're saying that Christianity is false and you call yourself a Christian, you heretic. No, I'm not saying Christianity is false. I'm actually saying something even better about the fact that Christianity is true. So for a theory or an idea to be falsifiable means that it's something we can at least begin to discuss. Why? Because I could ask the question, what would make your theory false? Which implies that there is something to be known about it and something that can be proved or not proved about it. For instance, if somebody asked me, what would make you not be a Christian anymore? Well, in order to falsify it, in order for me to not believe it anymore, it's pretty simple. Show me the bones of Jesus and confirm it. Show me beyond a shadow of a doubt that the Bible has been written by crazy people somewhere. And the best of the best have tried. And I mean, we haven't found the bones of Jesus yet because my Christianity's grounding, my foundation is on the risen Christ. Being faced with mortality every day when it comes to this virus, my hope is in Jesus Christ. And I hope that if you're watching this video, you've placed your hope in Jesus Christ. If you haven't, we'd love to talk to you about that. I'd love to pray for you, and I'd love to help you get to that place, or at least begin the process of discovery and understanding. So for these theories around the coronavirus to hold any weight, they must be falsifiable, if you understand that. What about them could be shown to make them be seen to be false? It's really another way of saying, what makes your theory true? You understand that? Because people will call them theories, but in reality they hold to them, like a bulldog to a steak, or maybe me to a steak, rather. So you would simply ask the question, how do you know this information? Now, this one's a freebie to throw out there to my brothers and sisters in Christ. I wanted to make this a way to correct some bad thinking when it comes to Christians. I'm going to probably do another video specifically about this, addressing it from Scripture. But let me just say this. We have people who are claiming to be Christians who are saying that, well, the media is just, deceiving everybody, and they're making you fear, and you just need to trust God, and you just need to be positive. Well, first of all, there's a whole lot of questions that need to be asked there, right? First, we ask, what do you mean by trusting God? What do you mean by being positive? What do you mean by the media is just trying to tell us, what they want us to hear and put us in fear? How do you know that information? I mean, do you have inside people like working for CNN or Fox or something like that? I mean, that's the kind of details that we would need, right? Eyewitness testimony that they were asked to please script the most fearful, biased script so that we could throw it up on our teleprompters and scare the living crap out of everybody. Why? Well, if you scare the crap out of people, they'll buy more toilet paper. Sorry, that was a free joke. But you see what I mean. So, Christians, get it straight. Think through these things. Don't open your mouth before you think. I tell my son all the time, think before you speak. Why? Well, Proverbs tells us that a man who is slow to anger is wise. He prevents an awful lot of crap in his life. That's my paraphrase, of course. The reality of that verse, though, it translates to me, or at least there's a principle in there that's really important. Shut up before you talk, use your brain, pray, and then speak based on good knowledge. Because knowledge is justified belief. If you don't have a justification to believe something, it's not real knowledge, and therefore cannot lead you to anything good or true. Well, guys, I hope this helps you. Pass this along, and we'd love it if you'd subscribe and come along on this ride, because we're just really trying to help each other out and give you some things to think about and help you engage the people around you and to seek truth. God bless you. We're out.